And welcome back. From Candlestick Cinema, we have the question of who was in a fight? Team Penguin from The Batman versus the Sinister Six from the Spectacular Spider-Man. And look, this should probably go in the speed round, let's be honest. First off, Team Penguin is already down one member, 5 to their 6. So that already is a disadvantage. But let's actually break down who's on each team here. Sinister Six has had a rotating influx of people. But let's talk about Team Penguin. Team Penguin has, obviously, Oswald Cobblepot. He does have Trick Umbrellas. Ragdoll, who essentially is human Ragdoll, more or less. He is very flexible, almost impossible to really hold on to. Then you have Killer Croc. All right, fairly physical powerhouse, and his version is much more of a crocodile, and voiced by Ron Perlman, too. Like an actual crocodile, like very, again, physically powerful. Okay, I can deal with that. Then you have Killer Moth, who, as you can see there, does have a mutated version. He's more or less the true beef of that team at that point. Flight, moth control, and enhanced abilities. And finally, you have Firefly, who does have a jetpack to move extremely fast, and he's got flamethrowers. And I think he also has like plasma tech as well, which is pretty capable. Now, the Sinister Six members have rotated out before. The entirety of the group, former or otherwise, has included Doc Ock, Electro, Kraven, Mysterio, Rhino, Sandman, Shocker, and Vulture. Now, and Tinkerer. Tinkerer has been on there too. Is there anything Team Penguin can actually bring to the table? Well, actually, yes. Because in the Batman TV series, it's the only TV series where pretty much every villain, including Penguin, knew how to throw hands. Killer Moth probably notwithstanding, until he obviously became a giant monster moth. But even Penguin and Riddler could throw hands with Batman. So you can at least say that in terms of overall hand-to-hand combat skills, Team Penguin actually has an edge there. Sure, a couple of these guys, specifically Kraven, have at minimum equal combat experience. But again, they all pretty much can fight hand-to-hand if they need to. Unfortunately, that's kind of where it all ends. Because really, you're only... let's break it down. Even if I were to make the weakest version of this team, the weakest version of this team would be Vulture, in my opinion. Vulture, Doc Ock, Mysterio, Shocker, Kraven, and Rhino. I'm leaving the Sand Elemental and the Electric Elemental off of the roster. Maybe, okay, hold on, Tinkerer. Forgot Tinkerer as well. Okay, sorry, no, he's actually not a member of the team. Okay. So, leaving the two Elementals off the table, that would be the weakest version of the Spectacular Spider-Man team that I can make. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, Spider-Man's rogues tend to be a little stronger than Batman's rogues because they have to go up against Spider-Man, who is a vastly more powerful metahuman than kinda anyone on Team Penguin. So, what's the dealio? Well, right out the gate, in terms of physical powerhouse, like Rhino alone is one of the only, it's even, and granted, this is a Spectacular Spider-Man, so it's not the same one-to-one as the comics, but Spider-Man has even said the Rhino is one of the few villains he has that straight out scares him to go up against because of how sheer raw power he is. This is a guy who's actually similar to the Hulk in terms of his origin, because it has to do with Gamma in his suit, and is like insanely powerful. Like even and even if this version of the Rhino is a weaker version, that's still someone who's at minimum comparable to your heaviest muscle Killer Moth, but more than likely exceeds him in strength and definitely durability. Then you still have to deal with the illusion casting of Mysterio, which is not really going to matter that much. I mean, they don't really have a good answer for it. Then you also have Kraven, who is, like I said, at least just as skilled, if not more skilled, than anyone on the team. And then there's Doc Ock, who's clearly the smartest person in the room right now. There's just really no good answer they have for a lot of these. Plus, Doc Ock's tentacles are highly durable. They don't have anything on that team to cut through the tentacles. And again, Doc Ock is capable of going toe-to-toe with Spider-Man with just the use of his tentacles alone. Now, with that said, the one wild card you could say for the weakest version of the Sinister Six here would be Firefly. He is capable of flight. As far as we know, he can fly faster than the Vulture, and he does have plasma fire-esque capabilities with his tech. So that is at least something that they kind of have over him. But again, Vulture's still also aerodynamic. Mysterio's illusions, they're not going to have a really good answer for. Shocker can also just attack from range with his sonic blast. So if anything, he can really just aim and hit Firefly right out of the air. And look, I'm being nice here. I'm making the weakest version of the Sinister Six I can. If I had Electro and or Sandman on the team, it's Goodnight Irene. Well, actually, to be fair, Sandman against Firefly is actually not a good match for Sandman because his Firefly's weaponry could actually heat him up into glass. But he's got no answer for Electro. In fact, if Electro were on the team, it's again, Goodnight Irene. They're done. Electro alone could take out the entire team, no issue. But even without that, let me put it this way. Do I think they could take down a couple members of the team, of the Sinister Six? Maybe? Like Shocker and Vulture, I think would actually be the most likely to go down. Even though Vulture and Shocker are probably the best options for taking down Firefly. But they'd probably taken down while getting taken down themselves. Great. The problem is, though, Killer Moth and Killer Croc together are not enough to take on Rhino. At least not these versions. And Ragdoll, frankly, I think I could totally see Kraven just being completely fed up with Ragdoll and be like, and just finally hitting him with a spear. Or Mysterio just screwing with them. Mysterio alone can just mess with most of these guys. Easy. So, is it a complete stomp? I would not say it's a complete stomp. I don't think complete stomp is a fair way to go about it. They could put up a fight. It would not be a very long fight, though. I think, again, at best, they lose 2 members on the Sinister Six side, whereas Team Penguin loses pretty much all their members. By the way, Team Penguin is animal-themed, except for Ragdoll, who's not. I'm amazed Manbat's not on this team. And I know he's actually controlled Man-Bat before in certain episode. Even if I added Man-Bat, it really wouldn't make much of a difference. They would have a little bit more edge in the air. Man-Bat, I believe, does have some sonic, some sonar capabilities and like supersonic capabilities. Not much, but some. He's also physically powerful. But again, it just really wouldn't matter. And again, this is just this iteration of the Sinister Six. I don't think it can even be that. If it's the strongest iteration, which would be probably taking out Vulture and probably taking out, if I'm going to be honest, taking out Shocker. You might think, well, take out Kraven. Trust me, Kraven could actually bitch smack a bunch of these guys around without difficulty. He's Kraven the Hunter for a reason. That would mean you'd be dealing with Sandman, Rhino, Mysterio, Kraven, Electro, and Doc Ock. They would be completely effed. So yeah, this is not a good team. Honestly, I don't know if you could make a version of like Batman's equivalent of the Sinister Six that could even beat any version of the Marvel Sinister Six, like Spiderman Sinister Six. If you were to do it, you'd probably want to have Clayface, you'd want to have Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, you'd probably have Raish. I'm looking at something like what we got here. Maybe a Killer Croc and maybe a Firefly. If you do it that way, you'd still be struggling with Elektra at that point. Like at that point, Sandman is no longer a huge obstacle because Mr. Freeze could literally just freeze him into place. Or Bane. I forgot actually you probably on that team, not Raish. Bane would be on that team. And Bane could be a very good combatant against Kraven. Probably just as intelligent, if not more, and could actually go against some of the more physical powerhouses of that team. Still not stronger than the Rhino, but still. I'll say this. If you were to make, again, Clayface, Mr. Freeze, Bane, Killer Croc, Firefly, and who was the other one I had? Poison Ivy. If you were out of that team against Sinister Six, that would be, because again, Ivy can use pheromones too to control individuals. So that would be a better version of this team. Absolutely, it would. And that is actually a much more debatable argument. But this iteration versus this iteration, no. But I digress. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely insane. Maybe I'm the one with the problem. I don't know. Let me know. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.